Buying a used car is a process that thousands of people go through each year, but with so much choice on the used market, knowing where to start can, at first glance, seem a little tricky.
Luckily, the flip side of having so much choice is that you're sure to find a car that suits your needs once you know what you're looking for, which is something we can help you with at Motors. We've got plenty of car reviews and group tests on our YouTube channel, as well as a multitude of advice posts and blogs on our website.
Once you've identified the make and model you're after and found a dealer selling one, there's still quite a bit to consider.
In this video, we're going to be working through the tips and tricks to remember if you're in the market for a second-hand car. Putting a budget in place before you even look at a car search website or set foot on a forecourt is a good idea. In doing so, you set yourself some boundaries and avoid buying a more expensive car than you originally set out to get. Remember that you need to factor in other costs as well as the headline price of the vehicle. Check how much it'll be to tax a car and how much your insurance will be too. It's a good idea to think about the amount of fuel or electricity you'll be using on average as well. This is especially relevant if you are considering an EV. Look at the total package.
Once you've got your budget, you can head on over to Motors to dial into exactly what you want from your next car. If you know the exact make and model you're after, it's very easy to jump in and get searching. If you're unsure about what your car is right for you, here are lots of filters for you to play around so you can narrow your search down to the right car for you. Think about the kind of journey you do. Are you mostly motoring in town or are you doing longer motorway trips instead? As this can change the type of car you're after. What sort of equipment is on your wish list? Heated seats, sat-nav, or maybe Apple CarPlay? These are all aspects that you can tweak and change via the Motors search tool. You can even tailor the running costs you'd like through the website, picking between different insurance groups and the amount of road tax you're happy to spend each year. Consider age and mileage too. By opting for a slightly older or higher mileage car, you might be able to get something a little more premium for your budget. It's good to keep an open mind when searching. Just because you haven't considered a vehicle before doesn't mean it's not right for you. Once you're happy with what you're looking for, you can search through thousands of used cars to find the one that you want to visit. Getting in touch with the seller is really easy. You can do so via the phone or email. It's also worth checking out some reviews of the vehicle so that you're not heading into the situation blind.
Having narrowed your search down to some vehicles that you want to see, it's worth having a think about where you want to buy your car from. In the UK, the three main sources that you could buy from are a main dealer, an independent dealer, and a private seller. Each one has its own benefits.
For instance, a main dealer or independent garage will likely put any car that it's selling through an inspection process and will be able to offer some form of warranty to cover it through an initial period of ownership. Of course, this process adds some additional cost to the car's price, but should something go wrong during your first few miles with the vehicle, you have that extra peace of mind that a warranty provides.
If you choose a private seller, then there's a good chance that you'll be able to save some money compared with a main dealer or independent garage. However, you aren't covered by the same consumer rights. You'll struggle to return a faulty vehicle to a private seller, you won't have a warranty, and there's less chance a car will have been professionally inspected beforehand.
A final note, Motors only lists cars from dealers. You won't find any private sellers on the site.
There are a number of areas that you'll need to look at on a car you're thinking of buying. We're going to look into these in more detail now. A car's exterior panels are a great place to start when checking over a car. Primary areas of concern include the front bumpers, which are prone to scuffs and scrapes, and the door panels, which can often fall victim to car park dings and shopping trolley damage. Take a look at any exterior plastics as well. Do they look cracked and worn? They might need some work to repair or replace and should change the car's price as a result. Make sure you check over the alloys too. They're sometimes badly damaged and can be costly to repair. Plus, badly damaged alloys can point towards a car that hasn't been well looked after. So they could be a good indicator of other aspects of the car. A car's tyres are the single point of contact between the vehicle and the road, which is why they are so important. Give them a visual inspection first, check out the sidewalls for any cuts or bulges, and look for any dryness or cracking, as this might mean they're older and need replacing. When it comes to tread, the legal limit in the UK is 1.6 millimetres, And one of the easiest ways to check this is with a 20p coin. If the outer band is obscured, then the tyres are within the limit. Can you see the outer band? That means they'll need replacing straight away. It doesn't need to be explained why a windscreen is important. We'd be checking it over for any chips and cracks, which could become worse over time and require a complete windscreen replacement. If a chip is only small, it can be repaired, but you'll need to ask whoever is selling the vehicle to sort this or take some money off the vehicle's price before you buy to reflect the cost of the repair. Having the right fluid levels in a car is paramount, so we'd be checking thoroughly under the bonnet to make sure that they're correct. If they're low, it might mean that a car isn't running properly or it hasn't been maintained properly. Check the oil, the coolant levels, brake fluid and washer fluid to make sure you're happy. Once you're inside the car, use your nose. It might sound silly, but a damp smell might mean that the car has been standing for a while and has let moisture in. Likewise, if a car has been smoked in, it will be quite easy to work out, or the seller might be trying to mask it with overly strong scents. Check out the materials used on the seats to make sure it's all in good order, and look at the bolsters on the side to ensure they've not collapsed over time. This is a common issue on a lot of high mileage cars. When you're inside, get pressing all the buttons too. Make sure that everything works. Test the radio, try the air conditioning if the car has it, and test the lights too. For that latter point, you might want to ask a friend or relative to stand outside the car while you test the front and rear lights to make sure that they're working properly. A spare wheel is a component you'll never realise how much you'll need it until it's an emergency, so make sure it's present in cars that come with one equipped as standard. Some more modern vehicles come with a tyre inflation and sealant kit instead, so check if this is present if there isn't a wheel. Also make sure that all of the relevant tools such as a tyre spanner and jack are present and correct too. Once you're inside, you can also double check that the car's mileage matches with the advert. Also, we'd make sure that it mirrors the kind of condition you're seeing in the interior. Does everything seem a little too beaten up for a car with low mileage? There might be something odd going on, so it could be a good time to walk away. Checking a car's history can provide a valuable insight into its past. Fortunately, it's easier than ever to do. In fact, you can find out a car's previous MOT history via a free government checker. All you need is the car's registration, and it will show you any failed MOT tests and advisories that you might not have otherwise known about. If you want to go a little further, then you can pay for a more in-depth history check. There are plenty of suppliers online which offer this service, and for a small fee, you can find out whether a car has been previously written off or if it has any outstanding finance on it too. It's worth doing for added peace of mind, that's for sure. You'll need to make sure that any car you're looking at has all of the relevant documents. The most important is the V5C document, sometimes known as the registration document or logbook, and this will show the car's make and model along with the number plate. Make sure that all of these match the car you're looking at and check that the VIN number checks out too. You'll be able to find it at the bottom of the windscreen on most cars. Service history is very important with a used car. If a vehicle that you've been looking at has a good service history, you know it's been well looked after and it's less likely to go wrong in the future. How to tell? Well, you should check a car's service book and see whether it has had regular servicing. You'll be able to see this via stamps and signatures from either a main dealer or a service centre. If the car is within a main dealer who sold the vehicle when new, they should be able to print up a full service history for you if there isn't a service book. Receipts are always a good sign too. As much history as you can find relating to the car you're looking at will help give you a clearer picture about its past.
Now, the test drive is often seen as the fun part of the whole car buying experience, and it is good fun. You're getting behind the wheel of a new, fresh and exciting car, but it's also an opportunity to discover any issues that could be lurking underneath of any car that you're checking out. So let's take a look at what you should be considering while you're undertaking a test drive. If you're looking at a manual car, then of course the clutch is a key component that you need to be checking out. Is it smooth? Does it react to your inputs like you expect it should? You should have a nice, clear action and not feel like there's too much resistance or a lack of resistance either. That's just as bad. It's best to do some local driving too, not just high-speed driving, as it's around town that you're using the clutch most of all. If the biting point is too high, if it feels like it's hard to get it into gear, then these could be telltale signs that the gearbox is on its way out or that the clutch needs replacing. We'd also suggest finding a steep gradient or a nice hilly section and putting the car in a high gear and seeing how it responds. Does it feel like the power is slipping? Does it feel like you're not getting enough of that transfer from the engine through to the wheels? That could be a slipping clutch. And again, that's going to be something costly to repair, and it's something you should definitely flag up before you actually buy, or stay away from that vehicle entirely. Of course, the beating heart of a car is its engine, and that's something that you can listen out for when you're on the test drive. Is the engine responding to your inputs properly? Are you getting a decent amount of power in relation to how much output the car actually has? Any knocking or slipping, well, that's a big red flag, and we'd avoid anything that feels not quite right in the engine department. Likewise, if you plant the throttle and you're just not getting the kind of response that you'd think, or if the car feels like it's stuttering or low on power, that could mean some elements of the engine, like the spark plugs or the glow plugs, aren't working as they should be and would need to be replaced before you buy a car. I'd also be thinking about how you feel in the car. Now, of course, if you've come from a smaller vehicle or even a larger one, you might be thinking that you're a little bit out of place or a little bit uncomfortable. But that's part of the process of getting acclimatized to a new vehicle. However, you've got to remember that you're going to be driving this car for the next couple of years, so you want to feel happy with it. Do you like the seating position? Can you get nice and comfortable behind the wheel? Is there enough adjustment? Can you tilt the wheel back and forth and bring it towards you just as you like? And does the seat have enough adjustment to it too? Think about how you're sitting in the vehicle and your perception of the road ahead. If you don't like sitting lower down in a hatchback like the one we're in today, then you might consider an SUV or a crossover that gives you that elevated view of the road ahead. Likewise, if you don't feel like you're getting enough power or enough performance, you might want to think about a car that has a slightly larger engine. That, of course, has slight implications on the insurance levels that you'll be paying. These are all little factors that you should be considering during the test drive, because this is your one opportunity to really feel how this car is going to slot into your life. Brakes, of course, are incredibly important. Brakes are going to slow you down, and they're what you rely on each and every time you drive the car. But brakes do vary between vehicles and between manufacturers even. Some brakes tend to be a little bit softer in French cars like Citroens or Peugeots, or a little bit sharper on German cars like Audis and BMWs. But whichever car you opt for, you're looking for the same things. You're looking for a progressive brake pedal that gives you nice, decent braking performance throughout that pedal travel. You don't want to start braking and feel like the top part of the pedal's travel isn't really delivering any braking performance. You want it to happen just as soon as you touch the pedal. What I'd advise you do is test out the brakes at a variety of different speeds around town and at higher speeds, such as when you're slowing down on a dual carriageway or motorway. Listen out for any kind of juddering that might come through the steering wheel or through the seat, as that could reflect warped brake discs or pads that might need replacing. Listen out for any sounds. If it feels like there's metal on metal, again, the pads are going to need changing out before you can purchase the car. You also should be making sure that when it does brake, that the car is slowing down straight and true. It's not veering off to one side or the other. You should be able to apply the brakes in a nice controlled manner. The test drive is also a great time to be listening out for any squeaks or rattles that could be present in the car. Think about travelling at greater speeds when sometimes those annoying rattles come to the fore. And if there's anything you have an issue with, make sure you flag it with whoever is selling the vehicle. Again, if you're doing lots of motorway journeys, then something I'd be thinking about is how much noise it's generating at higher speeds. Of course, around town you don't tend to notice them quite so much, but when you're travelling at 70 miles an hour, you can quite often hear quite a lot of road noise, wind noise coming from the front portion of the car, and that's a factor that can really lop off some of the car's comfort value, and it can make a car a little bit more wearing to drive than an alternative. Again, you've got to think about what kind of driving you're doing on a more usual basis. If you're pottering about town, those higher speed noises aren't so important. But if you're using your car mainly for motorway journeys, then it's something well worth considering. If, however, you're in an automatic car, then you should really be looking out to make sure that the automatic gearbox is shifting nice and smoothly too. There shouldn't be any clunks as it changes from one gear to the next, and likewise when you're slowing down it should be able to go down the gearbox just as easily as it's going up. Also, an automatic car's fitted with the option where you can shift gears by moving the gear stick over. Give that a try. There's no reason why not, and it might flag up an issue with the gearbox that you might have otherwise not noticed. It also makes sure that that functionality is working as it should do. It's also a good time to test out whether any driver-related assistance features work properly, such as the cruise control, for instance. Give it a try, make sure it's holding its speed correctly, and then you can be certain that it's going to work when you take the keys to the car. A car's suspension is a key component, and on the test drive you can find out whether or not it's right for you. Things that we'd be listening out for would be heavy clunks or rattles from either side, and too much of a shock coming through if you hit an imperfection in the road like a large pothole. Now, of course, it's worth bearing in mind what type of car you're looking at. If you're looking at a sporty model or a car fitted with large alloy wheels, then you kind of have to expect that you're going to get a slightly firm ride. However, a car that doesn't ride well, even though it's fitted with relatively soft suspension and smaller alloy wheels, might point towards an issue with the suspension in general. It might feel like it's too firm over potholes and like it shudders into them. Again, that's something you really need to get checked out. Remember also, on cars fitted with a multi-function steering wheel like this one, you need to make sure that all the buttons and displays work. So while you're on your test drive, make sure you give everything a good press just to ensure that all of those operations are working correctly. Now, when it comes to the steering, there's something that you can do which can easily flag up any potential issues with the steering of a car that you might be looking at. And you can just find yourself in a nice car park like we're in now, just give yourself plenty of space. And then what I do is go full lock to the right and just go slowly and listen out for anything that might be knocking or rattling. Do the same to the other direction, so full lock on the left. And again, listen out, see if you can hear anything. I'd also advise popping it into reverse and doing the same again. Go backwards to a different angle, go like that. And just listen out to see if you can hear any knocking or rattling noises. This is a great way of flagging up any potential issues with a car. And it takes no time at all, and it can save you a lot of money in the long run, or a lot of bother. We hope that you found this Motors Explainer video useful, and it has helped you to better understand the full process of buying a used vehicle. There are thousands of cars to choose from, of all shapes and sizes, so we're sure that you'll be able to find the model that is right for you at a price that fits your budget.
If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a big thumbs up and let us know in the comments section what you're looking for in your next car.